Sports Professor Rick Horrow, keeping score. We usually talk about stick and ball sports, but we've been on enough to know that we've also dealt with, you could call them secondary or niche sports. I suspect that's not appropriate given the economics that's generated by some of these. And, why not sailing? Why not America's Cup? We have the event director of the Louis Vuitton event, which is really significant as part of the whole America's Cup series. The guy that will explain all of that, Todd Reynolds. Todd, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So give us the elevator speech about the event and Chicago and Navy Pier and the excitement generated around that particular event, and also the broad perspective of the series.
Yeah, so this is the Louis Vuitton America's Cup World Series. This is a qualifier event towards the America's Cup Finals, which will be held 2017 in Bermuda. Teams are working to get points to pick who ultimately is going to take on Team USA for the right to take the America's Cup back to their country. The racing that we're going to have here in Chicago is going to be the first ever freshwater racing for the America's Cup in 165 years.
Bottom line of all of it, obviously, is people in Chicago certainly don't know what they're experiencing, and the economics of it will be second to none. Tell us a little bit about the economics of the event itself from the television perspective as well.
Yeah, so there's a number of international broadcasters. Will be all over the world. There is the U.S. broadcaster is NBC, and NBC Sportsnet will be taking the live. NBC will be having our highlight show. And then we've actually launched what they call the AC app with AC Plus. And so any fan can actually get the live in the U.S. It is geo-controlled. But in the U.S., any fan can download the America's Cup app right on their phone, and they can watch the live racing, no commercials, for a pretty nominal fee.
Todd Reynolds running the event, but also running the packaging of all of this from a broader perspective. Give me business show, business answers. Give me kind of the perspective of packaging the whole America's Cup series, what it looks like. Paint the picture of the mini balance sheet, dollars in, dollars out.
Yeah, so I'm really just focused on the Chicago event right here in Chicago. For us, our primary deliverables, right? We have scope with the America's Cup, and we've got to deliver the racing here in terms of the venue and security and making sure the racing is running and the fan experience. And the economics work out that via ticket sales, via hospitality sales, as well as via local sponsorship plays a big role in that.
So the first freshwater racing in 160-plus years, Lake Michigan as well, but obviously the backyard of a really significant urban area on the water. What does a successful hosting of an event like this in Chicago mean to America's Cup and sailing as a spectator event, let's say all across North America, for starters?
Yeah, so we like to say the Windy City is made for this. Chicago truly is a unique venue. The America's Cup is no longer held miles offshore, right? We're now sailing 45-foot-long wing-sailed foiling multi-hulls. These boats literally fly above the water. They're going 35, 40 miles an hour. And in Chicago, we're able to bring that race course right into the heart of downtown. And so Navy Pier is a massive tourist destination, number one tourist destination in the Midwest. Over 9 million visitors annually, and that serves as our race headquarters. And we race actually inside the old industrial breakwall. So there actually are 4 walls to our stadium, racing from Navy Pier down to the planetarium and museum campus, inside this breakwall for the racetrack. It really is second to none, and it's going to be a spectacle for everybody that's watching it on both on shore as well as around the world.
Give people an idea of price points to the extent you're able to. The 4 corners, as you would say, of the Chicago event. Suites, seats, premium areas, corporate hospitality. For people who are watching and listening here and who think about this in terms of a traditional stadium and arena, what are the similarities and differences from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, so the number one difference is, right, we're not in an arena, right? Our arena is Chicago. And so our event village is Navy Pier, and then we have to transform that and make it into an arena. And when we approach the problem of how do you provide these different viewing experiences, what are the right price points, right? We've never done this before, so it is a little bit of a learning experience. We do go out and collect quite a bit of data to help us try to price this appropriately. And ultimately, we want to make sure there are options available for everybody's different viewing objectives and budgets. And so we have the general Race Village ticket, general admission. You can buy a weekend pass or a single day. And a single day pass was going for $29 when we launched it. We're now a little bit less capacity, and that's now going for $35 for adults, 50% of that for kids. We want to make it accessible, but we are capacity constrained, and ticket sales there are going really, really well. And then a little bit more premium experience is the grandstand. So reserved seat, 8 feet up, overlooking the race course. Really could not get a better spot. And that was going for $350 when we ended it, and we are sold out of those tickets. Above that, we do have a corporate hospitality option, just like you'd find at golf or F1 motor racing, similarly priced. And then we actually have kind of a super VIP option, which is really reserved for partners and a handful of corporate groups that bought in. We've actually put a boat in the middle of the race course. So this is like having your suite at your bowls game up in the scoreboard. And so that we're really excited about that. I think that's going to be a really, really unique experience. And that was a $2,000 per day per person ticket. So much premium pricing, but really, really unique. And then finally, Chicago is just so perfect. And because of the Burnham plan, because of the way the city is set up, we have 18 miles of unrestricted lakefront. And so the public that maybe don't want to have the experience at Navy Pier, don't want to pay to go into the Race Village, they're going to be able to come out, have a picnic down on the city front, and just enjoy the day and enjoy watching America's Cup racing coming to Chicago for the first time.
What are you doing with those interloper law firm, accounting firm, big building tenants who have the lakefront view anyway and who are probably going to have viewing parties? Are you trying to extract a toll, or is just one of those goodwill things you can't get any money from?
Yeah, I haven't figured out how to do that one yet. No, I mean, it is over the weekend. If folks are up in their buildings watching it, fantastic. The more fans that come out and check it out in Chicago, the better. But it's not going to be quite the same experience as coming down to Navy Pier, seeing these boats from meters away from where you are. But we hope that everybody comes out, whether it's at the pier, up in a building, at the top of the Athletic Association Hotel is going to be fantastic, down on museum campus. And then even on the water. And we've actually got 2 great options for getting out on the water. One is entertainment cruises. They have the boats, the Odyssey, the Mystic, and the Spirit, all down at Navy Pier. These are big, beautiful hospitality boats, and anybody's able to come onto one of those boats, and those boats will be on the front line. Much more reasonable price point than the Elite in the middle of the race course. Looking at about $300, including food and beverage, to get on one of those boats. Hop online for tickets to that. And then finally, for boats that actually for boaters that own their own boat, Chicago does have the largest public harbor system in North America, which is pretty cool that the middle of the country has that. Everybody's going to be welcome out. Watch from your own boat. But we have put together a boater's pass that gets those folks to come down to the pier on Friday for the opening ceremony, get that experience, get their T-shirts, and then they get to watch it on the water on Saturday and Sunday.
Todd Reynolds obviously knows what he's talking about. He's running an event that, unless you haven't heard about this, is on water. And the bottom line is it's many first-time challenges. I guess my question from a business perspective, how much experience do you draw from mega stick and ball events and the economic impact generated from them, and how much of this do you make up as you go along?
Yeah, the 2 big data points that we have, given that this has never happened here, are Navy Pier and their Tall Ships Festival. We have hosted smaller sailing events down there, but Navy Pier Tall Ships last year in 2013, actually going to be back this summer in 2016. It is Navy Pier Centennial. They launched the wheel last weekend, a brand new Ferris wheel. They're going through a major reimagination and renovation of the pier, which is fantastic to see. We are their second event of their centennial celebration. And then just 1 month later, we're going to have the Tall Ships back in town, which is just another great family-friendly event down at Navy Pier. But those events give us a great data point for what is the economic impact for major festivals, major spectacles, sporting, family-related down at the pier. And then from an on-water perspective, we actually look more towards like an air and water show, where there is that spectacle of these boats ripping around the lakefront, boats using their private recreational boats out there, charter boats out there. And so those are the 2 things that we really look at. Coming out of this, though, we're doing a lot of data collection, and that's what's really important for us is, as the first time, how do you make sure you collect all the data so that you have a much clearer picture for the next time we do this?
I guess that's my next point. Have you estimated economic impact numbers yet, and can you compare them against the actuals?
I hate estimated economic impact numbers. I find them to be completely skewed depending on some assumptions you make for these first-time events. What I do know is the economic impact of some of the events that have happened thus far, and that is in Portsmouth in the UK. Economic impact in the $10+ million range for a 3-day event, pretty good. And then, I mean, at Navy Pier, we know that there were 100,000 folks that came down for that event in 2013. We're expecting somewhat similar, and probably pretty similar economic impacts.
What's in it for Louis Vuitton?
Louis Vuitton is a really cool story. They are one of the oldest partners in all of sport, continuous, right? It goes on 33 years they've been involved in the America's Cup. They are the title partner, and they're a fantastic partner to have. And it's actually really, really exciting to work with them. They have launched a new line of clothing around the America's Cup, and it just is so cool how it ties together with the event and with their brand.
When you wake up the morning of the first day of the event, what's the first thing you're thinking about that's going to go right or going to go wrong?
Yeah, our sport is really dependent on the wind. And so that's the one thing that I'm really focused on is the wind is what it is, but how do you adapt your race course? How do you adapt your schedule? How do you control the things that you can control given what Mother Nature throws at you? And so we have a lot of different plans in place to deal with Mother Nature. And that's really my number one thing that my team is focused on is how do we take the conditions we're given and make best advantage of it to ensure that the fan experience, the spectacle, the TV product is the best possible one.
Well, here's hoping the wind is blowing out for Wrigley Field and favorably for this race. And obviously Chicago has benefited from it. Todd Reynolds, thank you very much. We'll follow up with this as the racing continues through the America's Cup. Rick Horrow keeping score. See you in a couple of minutes.